I had a crazy chess game at the park in Washington, D.C. Let me explain. I was in Washington, D.C. for a chess conference on behalf of FIDE, and I stringed that along with a chess tournament called the Washington International. Recaps coming soon. At the end of that tournament, I had one day to discover the great city of Washington, D.C. I visited the White House, the Lincoln Memorial, and at the end of the day, I went to a park called Dupont Circle, in which there are chess tables and chess players alike. Chess players, might I say, are actual hustlers in that park. It gets pretty crazy. Stay till the end if you want my story against a chess hustler, real bred chess hustler. But I played a game that was spectacular. I ended up staying there 4 hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. and my last game of the day was the most spectacular one. So I had the white pieces against this really nice guy, Matthew, who was around 2,000 rated rapid on chess.com. I'm 2350. So I had the white pieces. We had been playing a few games and this was the one. So I played e4, my opponent goes e5, knight f3 attacking the pawn, and knight c6 defending. And now I go for an opening that you will never see on this channel, bishop b5. This is the Re-Lopez. I do not play the Re-Lopez, and you can scroll down 1,400 videos of mine in the chess nerd library of this channel. You will not find a Re-Lopez played by the white pieces, me. But I played the Re-Lopez. And in this position, my opponent went a6, attacking my bishop. I went back, and then knight f6. This is the Morphy defense. So I don't know much theory. I just went with this very normal d3, defending my pawn. Like, it's not the most popular move, but it's a very understandable and played move at the top level as well. My opponent chases my bishop, and now he plays bishop c5. This looks to me like the Dark Archangel variation. Correct me in the comments if I'm completely off, because I think the bishop above the pawn structure is the Dark Archangel usually, right, with d6, but I'm not sure about this variation in particular. Anyways, I castled, my opponent went d6, and now I went for a4. I'm trying to create b4 so that I can win this c4 square for my knight. Knight d2, knight c4. But my opponent doesn't budge. He plays bishop b7, defending his rook so that this is not even a threat. And now I have to go bishop e3. So I just continue developing, and my opponent gives me a small chance. He goes with castles, which lets me take and destroy his pawn structure here. So I do so, bishop takes, d takes, and now we can stop here. White needs to find a plan. So the logical move is to actually go here to attack this pawn and this outpost for the knight. So that's exactly what I did. I played knight c3, attacking the b5 pawn, and after b4, creating a very nice square that we always wanted, and backward double pawns. Now I can go to the d5 square, and it's a win for me. My opponent goes rook e8, developing his rook, and now I go for a5, trying to stick it to his pawn that's backward, and now his bishop is also bad because it can't inflict pressure from this diagonal. So he goes knight d4, and here I missed an opportunity. I should have taken, and then taken, and then f4 is +1 for white. But instead I took here first, which lets bishop takes d5, so it's less forcing. But my opponent doesn't see this. This is a blitz game, so there are mistakes out the wazoo. But he takes here, and now I still have takes, and f4, sacking a pawn, which is very interesting and the big advantage move, but I take this pawn. And my greed is punished immediately by my opponent, who plays c5, attacking my knight. I can't go back because I'd lose a pawn. So I go back here, and now this pawn is undefended. So queen takes, knight c3, discovered attack on the queen, and the queen must move back. So now I go to a4, attacking the root of the pawn structure, the weakness of this position for the black pieces, and now rook c8 defends the pawn. And here we play the move that is very characteristic of these structures. The move you want to play is the breakthrough pawn to f4. We are planning to open up the semi-open file onto this knight and pawn and inflict pressure alongside this bishop. So really f7 is the target here. So my opponent plays h5, letting me take and open up my rook here, but really there was no real way to prevent that, and now I go queen f3. And here I miss a counter chance. My opponent actually has this lethal c4 move, sacking a pawn, and after bishop takes e4. And he sacks his bishop back, but after pawn takes, he regains my bishop here with rook takes. If you saw that visualized, good for you. Queen e7 is what my opponent played, and now I have a win, as you can see with the eval bar there. And I find it, knight b6, attacking the rook and using that to attack another rook, and using that to play knight a5, but I don't play knight a5. I look at this rook move first, and it's a blitz game, so I'm looking at the rook, and I attack the rook, I guess, and my opponent plays rook g4. And at this moment in the game, my opponent has like 40 seconds on the clock. I have like 2 minutes because it was a 5-minute blitz game. And we decided mutually that this was such an interesting position that we forget the clocks. This is such a rich position that it doesn't deserve to be played under blitz time control. I hope you agree. My bishop is axed on this very nice diagonal, and my queen and rook are really performative on this f file, inflicting pressure on this f7 pawn, by x-ray. So the plan should be to remove this knight with the move pawn e5. And after the knight moves, then I want to remove this knight so that this bishop can come alive. And then all my 3 pieces can go on this weakness f7, and then I can win. By the way, if my bishop reaches here, I'm completely winning. I take here with check, I take here, it's completely over. Or I just trade queens. So I play pawn to e5. But before we do that, I am going to remove the eval bar. And I'm going to reinstill it at the very end of this video when we check it over with the engine for laughs. I play e5. My opponent plays not knight d7 nor knight e8, which I thought were the 2 only candidate moves. He plays knight d5. So like just sacrificing a knight. So I say to myself, if I take, I probably shouldn't take because there's like rook g6. And it looks painful. So here, instead of taking the knight that's on prise, that's free, I play knight a5, attacking not 1, but 2 more pieces above this knight and inflicting a second attacker on the knight. And now Matthew, my opponent, a very nice guy from Rhode Island, shout out, he sent me the whole game, which I didn't remember, but he did, takes a very long turn here. Very long. And along our conversations, he's like, oh yeah, I could sack my queen there. Oh yeah, that queen sacrifice looks good, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So now Matthew plays his move. Rook takes g2. And I'm like, oh, shit. He's sacrificing his rook, and my options seem limited. To me, when I take this, there's just rook g6. Pinning my queen to my king, and once I take this rook, he can just take, and I thought, okay, I can just take here, queen takes, but the queen seems to hold on to this knight, and if it does, it's just 2 rooks against queen, and this is not enough to win. So queen takes, to me, was not good enough. Okay, so I can't play king h1 because it just gives the entire thing plus queen takes h4. So I have to take the rook with my king, pardon. So I take with my king, and now rook g6 is played. And he plays this pretty confidently. And so in the actual game, I just like refuted him and played just king h3 is completely winning for white because I defend this and you have no more attack. And then he quickly corrected me that bishop c8 is completely winning for black. And if I go back, there's queen takes h4 check, queen h3, and this is checkmate. So I was like, oh, I saw this and I was like, oh, let me take back. And he allowed a take back because I allowed a take back earlier in this game. So now I play the real move, king h2. If I go king h1, by the way, there's queen takes h4, winning the game in 2 moves because this rook is taking up everything. So I go king h2, and now he takes, and now I play queen h3. And I'm telling him as we're playing, you've got nothing, kind of like some friendly trash talking, because he has no checks with his queen. And so this is completely over. And sure enough, he plays knight f4, to which he smiles at me and he's like, this is the queen sacrifice I was planning to play on you. And I was like, oh, wow, sacking a queen just to open up the bishop. So I take the queen, and after rook g2, king h1, and I tell him that whatever rook move he plays, this bishop is hanging at the very end. My knight move, played 11,000 moves ago, is hitting this bishop on whichever discovered check black plans. And if bishop a8, we were joking that this is the move, well, black loses the game to queen d8 check. And now I pick up the bishop and black has no attack. So we end the game. We say bye to each other at the end of the night. We said that we would check it on the computer. And I get back home to my home in Montreal, Canada, and I check this on the computer, and I am bewildered by the amount of things that we missed. We missed pretty much everything. So I played e5 in this position, right? This loses on the spot, and we didn't have, the clock as an excuse. We don't have that. He just wins with rook e6. Apparently, we just both missed this. Two talented play, strong 2,000, 2,300. We both missed this. To be fair, it was late at night, but no more excuses. So now he plays knight d5. Okay, another blunder. This gives me the only move out, knight d6, to block this rook from entering. But I played knight a5. Another blunder, giving him a win. The win here, as everything is attacked, is rook cg6. And after I take this bishop, because I'm going to win a knight, he has rook takes, queen takes, rook takes, king takes, and now knight e3. And this fork is going to win the game because he doesn't take my rook immediately. I think he just plays this one first. Check, and then he'll take this, and this is winning for black. Weak king is always losing. But he doesn't play the only winning move. Instead, he plays rook takes g2, another blunder, which loses completely. And so it doesn't lose to what we played in the game. King takes is another blunder. Rook g6 check. King h2 is the best move, which we ended up figuring out. Queen takes, queen h3, and here there's an almighty rook g2 check, which we both missed. Sacrificing a second rook to lure my king to an undesired square, also known as a decoy tactic, upon which it is on this filthy diagonal. But wait, the bishop is attacked. This never works unless it's a double check, the strongest possible move in chess. Forcing a king move, and this queen is done for. It is simply checkmate. King here is mate in 2, and the other move is king here, check, king here, check, king here, and mate. Unbelievable. King here also loses to queen h4, which we guessed, because the king on e2 can't be good, but now there's knight c3 check, picking up the queen by discovery. So what's the win here? The win is, in fact, queen takes. Taking the two rooks, not being afraid of this pin, taking the two rooks for the queen, and I was completely right about knight takes b7, and in this position, I misevaluated completely this position, rook ae1, and suddenly we realize that this is not some weak pawn in the center that's completely isolated. It's a protected pass pawn that is extremely dangerous while this queen is tied to this knight. This game is completely over. Example moves, queen here. Engine even says, you know what, you can take with your bishop, and this pawn is too fast. Queen here, pawn here, and then rook f8. And then white will be up a rook. So that's the story of my crazy game at Dupont Circle. And if you're staying right now, if you're watching right now, that means I promised you the story of the real chess hustler I played. I don't have this on camera, so this is going to be literally a one-angle story. Here it goes. So a guy comes and sits down across from me, and I say, "What is your name, sir?" I'm about to play a chess game against him. And he goes, "My name, Money." I'm like, okay. So then I say, okay, good game. So I put my hand out to handshake, right? After before every game in my life in person, I handshake. It's just completely normalized. He goes, "I don't shake hands." I go, okay. So we start the game. And I'm playing the black pieces. He's blundering, a little bit, like some pawns. And so I go with like bishop b4 check in the game, like a very normal thing. And he plays an illegal move. And I say, oh, your king is in check, sir. And he says, verbatim, he says, well, say check then. What did he say? He said, well, say check then. I don't play that shit. You have to say check to me. And so for the rest of the game, now I have to say check to this guy. And it just so happens he moves his king out of the initial square. And so now his king is on a direct king hunt. And so as I'm checking his king every move, literally like for 14 moves straight, I go check, check, punishing his earlier rule, of course. And then finally, I checkmate him with a pawn on g5. The position will look a little bit like what I'm putting on the screen. And he goes, I'm not kidding. He goes, checkmate. Where's checkmate? And so then I go, my pawn is checkmating your king, sir. It was a pawn mate, like the easiest one to see. And he goes, checkmate? Where's checkmate? Explain where's checkmate. So I go on and proceed to literally say which pieces is covering which squares and which pawns are defended by which pawns that are inflicting checkmate. And then he takes a full 35 seconds to accept that he's checkmated and moves out of the board. It was the most unforgettable experience of my life. Thank you to me who decided to go to the chess park, because that was insane. I haven't been to a chess park with real chess hustlers in a bit. Like this video if you want to see me go to a chess park, record myself against some chess hustlers in New York City, in Washington, D.C. once more. I'll do it. And thank you so much for watching this video. It was a pleasure to explain my night in Washington, D.C. for the first time in my life.